Hello, guys. As promised, I'm going to be getting into some of my tagged hands here. Yeah, let's jump right into them. Here's the first hand. We're 7-8 suited in the small blind. The bounties here, let me put this in terms of chips. So this was a 100,000, I believe, starting stack. The starting bounty is 15. The button has a bounty of 22.5. Our bounty is 45. And the big blind's bounty is 30. So I'm going to show you how to use SharkScope to import tournament prize payouts. So in the hand history, which I've copy pasted here, you have the tournament ID. So you'll copy that. You'll go into SharkScope. You'll find a tournament. This was on ACR. I do not recommend playing on ACR. I think there's a lot of cheating, and I don't do it anymore. This was actually the last Sunday that I did play on ACR. And so here we have the tournament. Now you click JSON and download. You save it. We already have it saved here. So we'll just overwrite it, not a big deal. And then we are going to take our hand history. First, we import. Create new. And then you click load SharkScope JSON. And this will import everything for you. Now we're going to need the actual hand history. We will copy paste that. Now we've got the hand imported into SharkScope. And in SharkScope, we have the SharkScope imported into ICMizer. Now you'll click MTT mode. If you don't click MTT mode, it's going to treat every hand as if it was the final table. Given that the blinds here are late reg is just closing, so starting stack is 10 big blinds. So it's safe to assume probably half the field is gone. So this had 318 entrants, 113 re-entries for a total of 431 entries. So I think it's safe to say 205 remaining players. Sounds about right. The average stack, we will just use the average stack on our table. So this tournament had a knockout prize pool of 6,465. So with half the field being gone, let's say roughly 3,900. For the bounties, 3,900 remaining in the bounty pool. Seems about right. So if half the players are gone and half of their bounties are gone, but it'll be a little bit more because some players will have gotten a bounty and then gotten knocked out. So we should expect roughly 3/4 of the bounties pool to be remaining. So I kind of just eyeballed this number, 3,900. It shouldn't matter too much. And for the average stack, we will just use the average stack for our table. So I'm just going to calculate that. So under the gun has 113K. Then the next guy has 919K plus 515K plus 443 plus 252 plus 258 plus 690 plus 241. And then we have 8 players on the table, so we'll divide by 8. This is probably a little high because we're saying half the field's remaining in the starting stack. I believe, is that listed here? It's either 100 or 125. But I think it's safe to say the average stack is around, say, 260. That wasn't. And now we will ICMize. So this has the button raising more than he's probably going to be raising. I don't understand how they came up with this number either. We're going to edit this a little bit. This is probably reasonable. Hold on it. Now we've given him a more sensible range. Let's ICMize our range. Oh, we've made a mistake. We have not put in the bounties on ACR are not included in the hand history, so we'll have to put them in manually. The only relevant bounties in this case are the buttons bounty of 22.5, the small blinds bounty, our bounty of 45, and the big blinds bounty of 30. This is going to change things quite a bit. Now we'll ICMize. We'll have to fix that range again. We're going to want to edit this opening range. He's not going to be opening quite this wide. This seems about right. And 7-8 suited is a profitable push. So we did that correctly. Just because any hand that can be pushed profitably doesn't necessarily mean pushes the right move. You might be able to make more by calling or making a smaller 3-bet. But nonetheless, 8-7 suited I think is a good hand to be pushing, and it's showing a slight profit. We could even be shoving 8-6 suited, or 7-6 suited, or 6-5 suited. So I'm okay with this hand. So yep, that's the first one, and just know The moral of the story is when you cover and people have bounties, you can be going pretty wide. The way you would calculate, the way I kind of calculate the value of bounties in game is at the beginning of a tournament, a bounty is worth 1/4 of a starting stack. And by the time you're playing heads up at the end of the tournament, the bounties are now worth half of a starting stack. So at some point in the middle, the bounties are going to be worth somewhere in the middle. Here, probably between 1/4 and 1/3. So I would just kind of translate the bounty into chips. This guy having 1.5 starting bounties, probably maybe 30K a bounty since the starting stack was 100K, I believe. So his bounty's worth maybe 45K in chips. That's how I kind of calculate this on the fly. So yeah, this is a quick tutorial in using ICMizer for bounty tournaments. And let's go on to the next hand. So this is quite late in a big 1100. Quite late in a big $11 tournament on Sunday. And here it's not a PKO, so I prefer, when it's not a PKO, I prefer to leave the chips in big blinds. So we are now jamming the King Jack offsuit for 20 bigs. Small blind versus the button. I believe there are roughly 60 players left in this tournament. Let's check this one out in ICMizer. I already have the prize pools loaded up. Now, MTT mode, let's say there are 50 players remaining. We use the average stack from our table for the average stack. Starting with UTG, 1.36 times, 1.36 plus 1.26 plus 0.942 plus 6.17 plus 1.37 plus 3.63. And now it's a 6-handed table, so we'll divide that by 6. The average stack is 2.4 million. $2.4 million seems about right. And we will ICMize this. The button there is one reshove stack, so let's make them a little tighter. You should be shoving a little more raising a little more of the king block range, a little less of the pretty hands. And maybe this is a reasonable opening range for him on the button. And now we will ICMize. And King Jack suited is a very profitable shove. So yeah, in reality, we would probably be choosing a smaller 3-bet with our aces through queens and our ace king suited, and some ace x off as a bluff, and some king 5 suited type hands as a bluff. But yeah, king jack suited is a very comfortable shove. That hand's easy enough. Let's go to the next one. Okay. This is a 10,000 start. This is a PKO, so I'm going to put the chips back into 10,000 starting stack on stars and a $15 starting bounty. So the question is, what should we be doing here? So let's pull this one up in ICMizer. So this tournament had about 150 players, and at this point I think it's reasonable to assume there are roughly 40 players remaining. So 40 players remaining is roughly a quarter of the field, which means that half of 3/4 of the field, 1.5 quarters. Trying to decide how much of the bounty prize pool is left. Knockout prize pool. Let's say maybe half of the knockout prize pool. 1,200. Average stack. We'll use the average stack from our table. I wish there was a button for that on ICMizer. Oh, the starting stack was 10,000, and we're roughly a quarter of the field. So average stack, let's say 37,000 should be a reasonable estimate. Oh, total chips. That's just let's do 40 times 37,000. Oh, we haven't pasted the hand history in yet. That's why we're having issues. All right, now we need to put that back, and now we're good. There we go. And all right, let's ICMize this. Let's see, cutoff. Seems perfectly reasonable range for the cutoff. And now what range is the small blind pushing? The small blind is pushing a great many hands. Not a great many hands, really. He's pushing any pair. Some better offsuit broadways with the king. Any suited ace. Seems about reasonable. And now how wide can we go? We cannot go with queen 8 offsuit. The value of his bounty here is significant. So the value of his bounty here is Baby Joker, 5250. So his bounty is worth more. Starting bounty's 15, so it's worth a little more than a starting stack probably. So here we're getting 2.31 to 1 to call. In reality, we're getting 3.3 to 1. Because the value of his bounty should be added to the pot. But the trouble is, if we call here, we're getting the price to call with queen 8 off, assuming there's no player behind us. And, the player behind us can choose to re-raise, and then we'll be in a really gross spot. So we do have to fold. So I like playing shove fold here, actually, just because we're going to be out of position, and we don't want to do too much flatting and have him, force us off our equity with a shove. So given that information, let's see what ICMI is just having a shove. It is letting us do some pretty hands here, like the 8-6 and the 10-7. This is interesting. Queen 8 off is clearly a fold. Queen 8 suited would be a slam dunk jam. So yeah, just know that you can ISO pretty wide versus these short stack all-ins when they have a substantial bounty. So, yep. Let's go on to the next one. So this is relatively early in a 44 PKO on ACR. Let's play through the hand. So the small blind limps and we just jam. This guy's a reg. We have a lot of hands on him. And he's limping a short stack in a PKO. So let's get this one pulled up. This is the 44 PKO. We're still in late reg. $72 players started the tournament. So let's say maybe 48 players remain. The average stack, we'll just use the average stack on our table. Oh, we need to copy this hand in. Knockout prize pool. This is probably about right. We will now ICMize it. So if he's limping the top 40% of his range, is this realistic? Let's edit this a little bit. It's hard to say what a person limps here, really. They might limp some aces and kings. I don't think they'll be limping. I feel like this is a spot where they'll kind of limp a top and bottom. Who knows what they're limping here, man? Maybe something like this. This is weird, but let's try it like this, and then we'll do it with the defaults. And we are jamming any 2 for this kind of trappy range. Now we'll unlock it. And we're still jamming pretty much any 2. Oh, excuse me. We don't have the correct bounties in yet. And versus 45% limping range, we are jamming any 2. Let's give him that trappier limping range. Some traps and some want to see the flops. Assuming he's going to be doing some jamming. He'll just jam those hands himself. Who knows? Let's give him something like just for the fuck of it. Oh, excuse me. We have not copy pasted the hand history in yet. There we go. All right. Now we've got this correct. And versus 45% limping range, we can push any 2. If we give him something a little bit trappier. Who knows? This is all pretty speculative. Yeah, give him some traps and some limp folds like this. We'll ICMize it. We're still pushing any 2. Why does that have us holding 2s here? Let me just make sure I did this right. I'm being a little... Anyway, oh, I passed the wrong hand just now. Yeah, I'm just running this a bunch of times. I've gotten different answers, and it's easy to make a mistake. So I'm just doing this one last time. Sorry, guys. Yep, any 2. I tried to make this video before, and I came up with a completely different answer when I reran the hand. I must have made a mistake inputting something. So yeah, that's a good tutorial on how to use ICMizer. We're going to finish up with one final hand here, which is not ICMizer related. It's more of... we're actually going to use GTO Wizard in this one. So this is a PKO, but we're at a stage of the tournament where the bounties are not super relevant. So we open King Queen, and we get called by the small blind, by the big blind. They check. We make a third pot bet. We get raised. We call. The turn is a very bad ace of clubs. He leads 1/3 pot. We call. This is where I think I made a mistake in the hand. I think I should just be folding this turn. But we did call it. And then we river gin. And cooler a 6. Not really cooler because we played the hand poorly. But now we're going to run this in ICMizer. I mean in GTO Wizard. So we're going to go to GTOwizard.com. Let's back it up so we can... I'm going to run this as a 25 big blind. So let's... we're playing 6-handed. 25 big blinds effective. Oh, crap. Yeah, okay. So, we're doing this 8-handed, so the first two players just fold. It's going to be almost the same. And then we open now in the low jack. King, queen off. So far, so good. It folds to the big blind, who is supposed to have some shoves, some calls, and some non-all and 3-bets. The big blind elects to call. Now the flop comes 6 of spades, queen of 6 of spades, queen 6 of clubs. The big blind does want to be doing a little bit of donking here, which is interesting. They want to donk some of their 6s, some of their queens, and some just bluffs. It's kind of crazy. Like, every hand is kind of bluffing at a little bit of frequency here. It's interesting to see. But if you're range checking this board, there's nothing wrong with that. But you could. It's certainly a board where you can do some donking in the big blind's position. So he checks. And now we're betting 1/3 pot, roughly. It prefers a 20% sizing. It is doing a little bit of this with the king queen off. So we'll give it our sizing that we chose, the 33%. In reality, that's something between 33 and 20%. It doesn't matter a whole ton. Oh, okay. This is interesting. Because now he's supposed to do almost exclusively calling versus the 33%. But if we put it in, oh, excuse me, he's, oh, okay, that was his donking. The big blind checks, and now we're in the low jack here. And if we choose the 33% sizing, he's supposed to do more raising than calling. He's supposed to be raising about 27%, calling about 15%, and folding about 53%. And he definitely wants to be raising his 6s. I believe he does raise me, doesn't he? We bet. Now he raises. 55. What are the odds we're getting a call? So yeah, I'll put it in as this raise 33%. Now our king queen off is pure calling. So we are calling. Now the turn is the ace of clubs. So here it has him betting 33% on the turn. Which is about what he's betting. And king, queen without the club is doing a little bit of mixing here. But I think versus a real villain, let's go back to this. Let's go back to this point. He is. I don't think the real villain's finding all these bluffs here. I don't think the real villain's bluffing 8-2. At the frequency that he needs to be. It's just those club combos that it's looking at actually. But it's even bluffing 8-2 of hearts a tiny bit, and like Jack 5. Is ever bluffing the spade combos? Yeah, it's like King 7, King 8 off. These bluffs over here, I don't think real villains are finding these with just the King of Clubs. So I think we should be folding this turn. So yeah, that is a quick overview of some hands. I hope you enjoyed. And ta-ta for now.